Welcome back, Chelsea. We're obviously so excited to have you here again for week two. We got a lot of really great questions to dive into from last week. But if you want to just kind of like recap for anyone that might not have seen last week's, just kind of really quick introduce yourself for everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea. I am a lifestyle and wellness coach and a self love mentor. I've been on this journey for, oh my gosh, like 16 years now. And I've really been able to master how to have a healthy lifestyle and be able to maintain the results that I'm after. I actually had a weight loss journey and I lost over 100 pounds. Was able to sustain it. And then I kind of got into bodybuilding and absolutely fell in love with the journey. And here I am still to this day, prepping, doing photo shoots, and just really living the lifestyle. So, my biggest thing is to help women learn how to actually live a healthy lifestyle and not always have to yo yo or restart or kind of go back to, where they've come from. So, a lot of it, I believe, has to do with the inner wellness and it's not just physical. So my biggest thing is to really help you to connect with yourself on an emotional level and really grow internally so that you can have those physical results and be able to sustain it.
I love that. And actually, at the end of the workout that I did today with everybody, we were talking about the biggest loser and why statistically all the people that lose the weight gain it back.
Did
And
you
it's
see there was
because,
actually, sorry to interrupt you, did you see there was a documentary
yeah, we
on
watched it.
it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were
But it was
talking about that everybody gains it back because the whole journey was just about like the things that you're doing rather than the internal work that's needed. So that's actually one of the things that people wanted to know about is how do you go about and how do you coach people to really make this a lasting lifestyle rather than like it's just something that I do for like a blip of time and lose 40 pounds, but I eventually go back to where I was before.
the biggest thing is being able to have sustainable measures. You can't do something that's a quick fix and then get to your goal and then expect yourself to live like that for the rest of your life. If you're starting a fitness journey and you're going to be in an extreme deficit and you're eating foods that are bland and that you don't enjoy, you're doing hours of cardio, workouts that you can't even maintain, how are you going to sustain that for the rest of your life? The biggest thing is making small changes and doing it every single day consistently so that when you do get to your results and you are happy with where you're at, you're going to continue to do those things because you've enjoyed it. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss. And I see so many people posting about quick fixes or, this quick challenge or this or that. And yeah, those are great for motivation once in a while. But like, if you want a sustainable lifestyle and you actually want to change your life, you have to be willing to be in it for the long haul and you have to be willing to take baby steps to get there because anything that comes quick will not last. And I've learned that through like firsthand experience time and time again. Because I was one of those people that would always chase that next thing. Oh, that juice cleanse, or let me try this new fad diet, or let me try this boot. No, it's literally about making small changes day in and day out, being consistent with that, and making sure that it adds to your lifestyle. Your fitness journey should add to your life. And it should not be taking away. So if you can't have a burger, if you can't have, a sweet treat here and there, you're on a diet. You're not on a lifestyle.
So, what do you think are kind of like maybe the three best things that somebody should implement when they're looking to get more focused on making it a lifestyle change? Maybe they've come into one of our programs. Maybe it was a shorter term thing. They got some quick results, but now they know that, okay, I need to start transitioning to long term thinking. So, what's kind of like three things that you would have them focus on to really cement those habits?
Well, first and foremost, like focus on your why, right? Like I think that's number one, and we all miss that because our why connects us to like our purpose and like why we're doing this and why is this journey so important to us. So if we have that why, we're gonna continue to show up day in and day out. There has to be that emotional piece to it. Secondly, I think making sure and like looking at your plan that you are having sustainable measures and making sure that the foods that you're eating, the things that you're doing are something that you can continue doing, right? Like if you're dreading what you're eating and you're not happy and you're not enjoying it, then there's a problem there. And I would think that it would be important to kind of analyze that and make some changes there so that you can have lasting change. And the third thing is I would also look at your exercise and your training and what you're doing, and making sure that it's not taking away from your life, right? And that it's something that you can sustain for the rest of your life. If you're doing hours of training and all this cardio and like you're feeling so bogged down and your energy's depleted, that's probably a good indication that this is something you can't do forever. Right? So I would really take a look at those 3 things and really be honest with yourself, get real and be like, "Okay, what is it that I can do? What is it that I can't do? And what does this look like for me?" I think that is so important, and that's about you being honest with yourself and being reflective.
So how would you recommend, or maybe for yourself when you were earlier in your journey, how did you find the line between like I'm trying to do something that's sustainable and I'm eating things that I probably shouldn't based on where I want to go with my goals? Like, an extra, I had 3 flex meals this week and it's okay, I deserved it, but like you probably didn't yet, you know what I mean? Where do you kind of find the line and the balance with that?
You know what? I had to you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be 100% honest with yourself, because here's the thing, if you are on a weight loss journey and you want to get to your goals, having 3 flex meals a week right now probably isn't the best thing. Having one, okay, great. Like you can totally do that. But having 3 is probably not going to get you there, right? Especially if you're after those results. So I think it truly is just being open and honest with yourself and making mistakes and failing and having fallbacks, but then kind of picking yourself back up and like taking an honest look at your life and your goals and what it is that you want to accomplish. And I think
So
like, sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 keep going.
I was just going to say, I think it's also really hard if you have like an all or nothing mentality, right? Which I struggled with for so long. And I always thought, okay, well, if I'm having this little treat meal here, I might as well eat everything else and start fresh tomorrow. But then I would start fresh tomorrow and try to deplete and starve myself. And then I would kind of fall into this pattern that became super unhealthy. So I really think like one of the biggest things is being open and honest with yourself and maybe sitting down and, really going over like what your goals are and like what it looks like to get there.
Where do you feel like that all or nothing mentality comes from for yourself?
For myself personally, I think it definitely comes from childhood, and not being good enough. I think that I always was one of those children that, just needed to have this like everything had to be perfect. And I think it's almost like a subconscious thing of like self sabotaging yourself, right? And we may even do it on a subconscious level and not even recognize that we're doing it. But I think it also comes down to I think you have to learn how to trust yourself and knowing that, okay, you know what? Let's say I've eaten clean all day and I want to enjoy this piece of dessert with my children. I can have that one piece of dessert and it's not going to do anything to me. But what will give a hindrance towards my success is if I have that all or nothing mentality and decide to go and eat everything else and start fresh tomorrow. There's no such thing as perfect, right? And I think we have to start to understand that that doesn't exist.
So what were some things that you found helped you to break free of that like all or nothing mentality? Because I know a lot of our ladies get stuck with that. And it's like that one meal on Saturday and then it's fucking Tuesday before you get back on track and
Yeah.
and then you beat yourself
I
up about it and
yeah, I've completely been there, and it's a really hard cycle to break, but I think I'm going to be 100% honest, healing. I started healing. I started doing a lot of inner work, because it's interesting because I think a lot of the patterns that come out of us have a lot to do with the things that we've been through that may not have even been to the surface yet, right? And like looking at the mechanics of who you are and your patterns and your behaviors. And I think once you start to do the inner work and start to have a better relationship with yourself, your patterns and your behaviors will start to change. So I think, yeah, like when I took an honest look at myself and decided, okay, I need to get a little bit of help here and kind of like work through a lot of the things that I'd been through, that's when things changed for me on a different level. For sure. Even now to this day, I'm still working on having that balance. I've gotten a lot better at it. Especially through the holidays. I could honestly say this was the first Christmas where I did enjoy myself and I didn't have that guilt or I didn't go overboard, right? Like I know that I can have it again tomorrow. And I think that's the problem is we get so caught up in this diet culture and it's like you have to restrict, restrict, restrict. But it's okay if 80% of your day you're eating clean and the other 20 you're having something else. Because what you do more of is what is going to show up for you. And that's something that I say to myself all the time. I also think too sometimes with the emotional eating, it can be such a hard thing because I think it's a way for us to control certain things in our lives. I know, especially for me. And I know that when you do emotionally eat, you're trying to numb something that's going on inside so that it will give you control over those feelings and emotions because we don't want to feel those certain things. But the problem is when we emotionally eat, not only are we upset at the fact that we let ourselves down because we didn't keep the promises we made to ourselves, but we also are still upset about that same thing that we were trying to escape from because it's only a temporary solution, right? So I feel like all of these little things kind of go hand in hand. So I think the best piece of advice I could ever give to anybody is do the inner work. Do the inner work and start to reflect within yourself, start to notice your patterns, your behaviors, go back to the feelings that you have about yourself, even if they're not like positive, right? Like think about the negative feelings that you have about yourself and try to uncover like where it comes from and when did you start feeling like that and why are you telling yourself that story? Yeah, I think that would be like my number one thing. I know it's deep, but this is the work that actually matters. That inner work is what matters.
I agree. I think it's definitely powerful, and it also is the initial trigger that leads to these habits. Because all these things, whether it's all or nothing, whether it's we binge, any negative habit that we have with our health or with our nutrition or anything like that, it's a habit that we've developed over time. But there was always like that point of why did that habit come about in the first place? So it's exactly what you're talking about. It's whatever unresolved trauma or stress you're running through, or whatever initial trigger there was that you did this once and you got a positive feedback from it, whether it's you eat a bunch of food and then like you can finally breathe and relax. I know that's something that I've struggled with too, with stress eating at night when I'm having a meltdown for whatever reason. So we get rewarded with this positive thing and it becomes a habit. And even though it's not healthy for us and it's actually hurting us, we have this attachment to it now, and it's just something that feels normal to us even if it's like bad.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you completely. It can be such like a hard journey to go through and like I remember too like I struggled with it so much and especially like the whole idea of like I have to be perfect. Everything has to be to the T. I have to be completely perfect and I have to keep it going, going, going because if I have one thing I'm going to mess it up and I have to start all over again and I'm going to go right back to where I started. And I think that's something that lies within each and every single one of us. It's a scary thing because it's like when you start to make that progress and you see change in yourself, you have that underlying fear that it's like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to that. So I have to like keep this cadence of being perfect. And I think that's when it comes down to like that relationship with you and having that self trust, right? And knowing that you're going to be okay. You're not going to ever go back. You're changing and you're growing and you know better and you're doing better. And I think that even throughout my journey, that's been my biggest fear and setback is I'm scared I'm going to go back to being completely overweight again, right? So that's why I would always try to be so perfect with everything. And it's like, oh, I have that one meal. Is it going to set up all those patterns and triggers and behaviors again? No, it's not because you've grown and you've changed and you've learned and you're showing yourself that you've been doing this now for a long time. You're never going to go back to that version. You've outgrown it. So I do think it really does come down to self trust. And we build self trust by having a deeper and a more authentic relationship with ourselves.
Yeah, I think that that's amazing, and then that's really what it's all about, right? Is
It
the whole
is.
physical journey is just an extension of the mental journey, and I think when a lot of times when people start to work out and take care of themselves and they start to lose weight for maybe the first time in a lot of times 10 or 20 years, when ladies start to work with us, it's like it's powerful. It's like, oh my God, I actually can change my life. Things can be different for me. It doesn't have to be this way. But I think that can also then be really scary because these are new feelings, and like this isn't me. Like the me that I'm used to is overweight and I'm tired and I eat like shit and I fit in with everybody else. So this new me is like scary. And I think sometimes that can be a trigger to then like sabotage and go back to the familiar, even if it's bad.
Yeah, 100%. And I think another thing too that's really important is if you do sit down and you get yourself a little journal, really, really write out like those feelings that you have about yourself and like try to really dig deep and see what like that core wound is because we all have wounds. We all do. And the more work you do on this journey and the inner work, you start to understand those thoughts and the process that you have. And for me, it was always, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough, and I still struggle with that. I'm still working on changing that connection in my brain to recognize that I am good enough, right? Um, so I think like if you can really go back and like figure out what it is, then you can kind of start to work on switching the patterns in your brain and feeding yourself with positive things and telling yourself positive things and then being able to catch yourself in those feelings and thoughts. I had a client that reached out to me yesterday and she was having a very stressful day and she was struggling and she said it was the first time that she did not reach out to emotionally eat. And I was like, that is amazing. Like that is the first step into changing that pattern, right? Is being aware and recognizing it and knowing what your triggers are. Don't let other people or other influences control what you do for yourself because you're only hurting yourself. And that was something huge I had to learn too. Because if nothing was going right in my external circumstance, I wanted to control it. But I wasn't hurting anybody else. Me sitting here and eating all this food and binging wasn't hurting them. They don't care. They're going about their day. They're living their best lives. And here I am in pain and eating and then not keeping the promises I made to myself. And it made me feel really, really sad, especially because I didn't keep those promises to myself. So when you show yourself that you can keep those promises to you, you start to build that confidence and empowerment and that love within yourself and you start to rise. And those patterns start to fall off because you're so dialed in with the connection that you have to you.
I love that. So I'm gonna use this to segue into another question that they had
Yeah.
is how do you go about maintaining once you get to your goal? Because like everything we've kind of touched on so far has been about like making that initial transformation of like who you were to who you are now. And I think that's like part one of the journey. And a lot of people stay stuck there forever, unfortunately. But for those that do eventually get to their goal, I think it's even almost harder sometimes to stay there. And you've been able to maintain your physique for years, which I think is really rare. So how do you go about maintaining when you're already where you want to be?
I think the number one thing is knowing what your purpose and drive is behind it. Like just knowing what your why is and what keeps you going every single day, and what this journey means to you. Because if you can remind yourself every day of why this journey is so important to you, you're going to continue doing it. And like, I think it is a testament of self love. I think you showing up for yourself. I think you being consistent. I think you taking care of your body and eating whole, nutritious foods. Those are all acts of self love and you having a good relationship with yourself. So I think it comes down to just like, what kind of relationship do you want to have with yourself? How do you feel about yourself? What is important to you, right? And then following through with that every single day. And like I said previously, like that's more of the internal stuff, but making sure that you have sustainable measures and like falling in love with the journey, right? Having positive associations to what it is that you're doing. So working out, like that is amazing for you. Those are endorphins. That is keeping your body healthy and young. It's allowing us to age in a more graceful way, right? It's not just about weight or how we look. That's just another benefit of it, right? But more importantly, like as we grow older, women especially, we need to make sure we're taking care of our bones, our muscles, our heart, our organs, all of those things. So that is number one. Like you want to be able to keep up with your kids, your grandkids, right? I don't want to be sitting there and not being able to play with my grandkids. So that to me is super important. And even my kids now, my kids are both in competitive sports and my son will ask me in the summer to go for races or to drop down and do push-ups and I will beat him every single time and I will make sure that I will. So it's like having those little things to remind yourself of that as to like why you started the journey and why it's so important to you. Um and then showing up for it every single day. And listen, not every single day is going to be easy. There's going to be tough days, right? Like motivation comes and goes, but it's just continuously doing that and knowing, even with the food that you're choosing. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you eat super clean, you feel really good. You don't feel inflamed. Your body feels good. You don't feel lethargic. You have energy. Your digestion's great. There's no bloat, nothing, right? That's a freaking good feeling. But then as soon as you have things that are not as healthy, you get inflamed, you get watery, you have retention, your energy is low, you could take a nap. You have to remember that feeling because like you don't want to live like that, right? So I think like for me that's my motivation. I feel good. I feel good. I want to feel good. Our bodies are designed to feel good. So like that is number one. You have to be honest and open with yourself and remember those things.
I love it, and I think setting up your environment along the way, I think really helps. And I mean, like as far as the people you surround yourselves with, the
Yeah.
things that you do. So, for instance, if you go to the gym, there's other people that work out. You're around that supportive community. People are talking about health instead of if your old circle was kind of like where you were, then you don't necessarily have to get rid of those people. But if you spend more time with them, it's going to be dragging you back to like your past life.
100%. And that's something I do want to touch on too about environments. And I go through this with a lot of like my one on one clients, and I've gone through this personally as well. You are going to outgrow. You are. And sometimes the journey can be a little bit lonely, right? But this is what happens. When you start to grow and evolve, your energy does shift and you raise a higher vibration. So the people that are here, and as you're going up here, they're going to fall off. They're not going to see you at that level. And sometimes that can be really hard because you start to think, well, what's wrong with me and why are they putting me down, or they don't like me anymore. It has nothing to do with you, right? You just sometimes outgrow, and that's okay, because if you can have enough courage to kind of let those relationships fall off, universe or god will always reward you with new energy, new people, new doors, no new opportunities, right? So you have to really be mindful of that as well, and stay strong and just stay committed to your vision and like keep growing, keep evolving, because that is what fuels us. That's what makes us feel good. Like as humans, we need to evolve and grow. And I've been through it multiple times and it can be really hard. And I also think too that sometimes people will see things in you that trigger them because they wish that they could do what you're doing. So sometimes it's a projection and it's their insecurity. And I used to get that a lot. Oh, just eat. Why do you have to do that? Like you're good now. Like that's enough. No, no. I'm happy. This is what makes me feel good. And like worry about you. Let me worry about me, right? And you'll meet people at that level.
That's amazing. I love that. And isn't it so funny that the default is to eat like shit? And if you're actually just
Yeah.
eating like clean, healthy foods, you're on a diet. When in
Yeah.
actuality, that's actually how we're supposed to be eating. The shit that you're eating, you're on a diet, you know?
100%, 100%. And I find it very interesting because it's like, why do people have the nerve and audacity to be like, oh, why are you eating that again? Like, I don't look at you and sit there and say, why are you eating that? I don't care. I focus on myself, right? And everybody gets so concerned about what everybody else is eating or do. Worry about you, right? And I had to go through this a lot even when Steve and I first started dating. I remember I still do. Now they're used to it, but I would bring my food all the time, and even his brother had made a comment. He's like, "You wish you could eat this." And I was like, "No, actually I don't. Like I don't. I really do like my food and I could eat that if I wanted to, but I'm choosing not to." And that's another thing. You're choosing this journey. You're choosing to do this for yourself, right? This is a choice. Nobody's forcing you to do it. So you're empowered. And yeah, you're ultimately you're in control.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think we'll stop there for today. So same for next week. We'll get any questions that anyone wants covered, but I think you really nailed things really well today. And I think for me personally, my biggest
Thank
takeaway
you.
would be that the work is really the internal work. And if you're not where you want to be, that's what you've been avoiding. You've been doing the external stuff that is maybe hard but easier. So it's much easier to work out and focus on your nutrition and walk and drink water than it is to look at yourself and be like, I'm actually really unhappy because of my job. I'm really unhappy because of how I live my life. And like look at those challenges, bring them to the light, and then go about fixing them is extremely difficult, and it's much easier to just ignore it and numb yourself. So be proud of yourself that you're willing to take take this chance to work on yourself and dive deeper and become that better version of yourselves. So if you haven't started it already, Chelsea touched on it a few times, but I think journaling would be a really good place to start and get those feelings out. So when you have either the negative thoughts or the positive thoughts, or there's the triggers, you'll think of it fleetingly, but if you don't write it down, you'll forget. But when you write it down, you can analyze it and dive deeper and then build off that foundation. So that's going to be my takeaway that I want for everyone this week is if you want to get started on that internal journey, journaling is a really good place to start. And as always, Chelsea's always in here. So if you have any feedback and you want to leave it here after this video or questions for the next one, we'll be looking forward to seeing everybody again next week.
And also, one thing I just want to add is catch yourself, be conscious and aware. So, if you hear yourself saying something negative to yourself, even as a joke, I always get so mad when, even if you joke about yourself, because it's not funny because your body is listening. Catch yourself and right away change that thought. So, if you're saying something, I mean, if you're doing something and you're like, oh, I'm not good enough for this, or I'm going to fail at this anyway. Catch yourself and be like, no, I am good enough for this. I am going to do amazing at this, right? Even a little tip in the morning when you get up, when you're having your coffee or tea, write out like 5 affirmations for yourself, just 5, and keep them with you in your purse or post them on your mirror just so that you can continue to remind yourself because that is the key. Is like you have to be on the same team as you. And one more thing I want to say before we leave this. If you any of you need any help in regards to a healing journey or where to start or anything, send me a personal message and I would be more than happy to give you some sources that I have. I also have a lot of great books and podcasts that have really helped me on my healing. So yeah, I have a lot of sources. So if you need anything, please send me a message.
I love that. Well, thank you for your time, Chelsea. Enjoy the rest of your day. Everybody have a beautiful Thursday, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.